In today's episode of Out of Office, we're going to be talking about our collective experience working a 9 to 5 job, how we felt like we were expected to work, like we didn't have kids and raise kids, like we weren't working, and why that led us to starting an online business that ultimately made $2 million.
Now give it to me. Oh yeah.
This is something that I, in particular, am extremely passionate about. And I don't think anybody else gets, well, in this group, I don't think anybody else gets quite as fired up about it. But we're talking about women in the workplace and why we have such a different experience from men, and also why that experience in the workplace has kind of led us to start looking for other opportunities. Like why is it that when you look online and you look at people selling courses on Instagram, it's primarily women? And this was something that I thought when we first got started. So I was like, why is this all women? Like, why are we doing this? Even though I had been through like the reason that all of these women were starting to sell online. And in my case, at least, because I know that we have all had different work histories and backgrounds, it's because my experience in corporate was so defeating.
Yeah, you
Like,
had like a horrific corporate experience.
I don't think it was horrific. It wasn't great.
It was just traumatic.
You had like the very typical narcissistic male boss.
Yeah, I definitely did. And that has absolutely, I mean, y'all know that one experience, that one particular job is ultimately why I started this online business and why
It
we're
could
even
have
here.
easily been your villain origin story.
It kind of was my villain origin story.
Kind
That's
of.
when I got meaner.
You did get meaner because of it, but
I had to get harder.
you
It
had
really
to.
drudged out the evil inside you.
Yeah.
It sucked out every glimmer of light.
And I mean, thank God though, right? Because now we have a business. But I don't think I'm not the only one who's had that experience. And I know that the kind of the premise that we want to talk about is like women are expected to work like they don't have kids, and they're expected to raise their kids like they don't work. But there is no way, like in today's economy with the cost of living, women absolutely have to work and they have to raise kids. Like there's no way for us to just stay home because we can't afford it. But in the workplace, we have such different experiences from men.
I think it's also something like to point out that, when you look at all these women online pursuing the side hustles and the extra stuff, I think some people are quick to assume that maybe they just want these side hustles because they don't want to work. Like they want to work from home when it's really the opposite. And it's the exact reason you said because of their environment in the workforce, and that this side hustle, quote unquote side hustle, takes a lot of work. But I don't know, I just think that's interesting because I remember thinking that at first when I saw people like thinking maybe everybody wants to be a stay-at-home mom, but it's not the case. But let's dive into like your story first because I feel like yours was like the most traumatic out of all of ours. But I also think a lot of people can relate to it.
I don't know that a lot of people can relate to
Well,
my particular
Not the specifics,
experience.
but like some of the stuff to a degree, like toxic work environment.
I think so. You kind of had like that traditional like Mad Men experience.
It was interesting because
They were mad men.
they were mad men. But as a woman in this particular field, you're expected to do a lot of grunt work. And you're like really good at getting coffees. You're really good at taking notes. You're really great at answering the phone. You're really great at building company culture. And it's all stuff that they don't associate with men. Like, not once in my time working for this one company, at least, were they like, this guy would be really great for company culture. This guy would be. So at one point, my exit interview, and this blew me away. I was an admin, so I did a lot of answering phones. I did a lot of clerical kind of work. And when I left, my boss was like, "Do you think your job is something that a man could do?" And I was like, "You're asking me if a guy could answer phones or take meeting notes?" And it's because they don't associate men with that type of work. And that's not all I did. I did a lot of heavy lifting work. but they were primarily associated me with doing
What an
mm,
inappropriate question, though.
yeah, I was like, "You're kidding me. Can a guy do this job?" Like, "Yes." Um, and so that was just crazy to me. But yeah, meetings where men, like these people in leadership would tear each other down in front of other employees, being like, "You need to be more like this employee." These grown men, like, borderline in tears because they're in these positions where they're making hundreds of thousands of dollars a year, but I'm hired to monitor all of their emails, and I'm hired to help them go through their emails and make sure that these men are responsible in their positions and responding to client emails. But I wasn't worth money. I was only worth like $45,000. And then I was expected to care more about my job than other employees. And so it put this really bad taste in my mouth. And I kind of went to the next job because ultimately I did leave and I found a remote opportunity where I was doing similar work, but from home because I had my kid at that point. And it was much better. There were more women in leadership. It was slightly more understanding, but it was more corporate. And because of those 2 job experiences, I was like, "Is this what the rest of my life is supposed to be?" And I know that I'm not the only one who had experiences like that. I think a lot of women have experiences like this in the workplace, but what are your options?
Yeah, I think what you're forgetting, and maybe you've just blocked it out, is that at that first job, you were working really hard. You were doing a lot of work for those men. You were doing a lot of their job, and they were promoting around you, making more money than you. They were asking you to do personal errands for them. You were literally, they would like leave to go on vacation, and you were doing their heavy lifting. And that was a lot of your frustrations, is that they were literally promoting and making more money while you were doing their jobs. And I remember you telling me, I don't know what to do about this. I've already asked about it. You were going to your boss trying to talk to them, and they were just like, "Hey, I think at one point they were like, "Well, you're a mom. You can't, like, we don't really can't give you much more because you can't give us much more, even though you were giving them more."
Yeah, it was because I didn't have the right degree, and to be fair, I didn't. Like, I wasn't in one of the high earning positions, but that didn't mean I wasn't
But
working
you still
extremely
educated
hard.
yourself and you learned all of the positions.
Yeah, and so, yeah, that was interesting.
But even still, so you had, like, this awful job, soul-sucking job, and there was 0 fulfillment, and you were, like, barely making enough for what you needed. There was still not a way like, it's not like you could go out and get another job on top of that. You were already working full-time, and there wasn't any they didn't offer you any sort of extra opportunity to level up, like, to promote or anything like that within the business, and that's kind of, like, where you started to look online. You're like, "What can I do besides this?" And that's kind of when you realized, like, there's just really not much out there for women, like, extra. I feel like it's so easy for men to go pick up extra jobs because, like my husband, Eric, yeah, he could pick up another part-time job if he wanted to because, as the mom, I do the majority of, like, the raising of the kids. Like, I could never go out and get another part-time job
No.
because who's gonna take the kids to the doctor's appointments? I mean, he can, but that's not, like, the general expectation. So
No, and like we were talking about earlier too, when it comes to women in the workplace, like I know for y'all, I know for Jane in particular, and for you, Paige, your husbands made more money than you did. So when the kids needed something done, when you needed to take them to a doctor's appointment, when you had things that you had to do outside of work, your husbands weren't doing it because they made more money. So you had to do it. You had to take time off of your job because you made less to go take care of the kids. And and that was kind of the expectation, and that's still the expectation. It's like, well, women are making less, so let's have them take care of the kids. But then your job gets frustrated, the workplace gets frustrated because you're out
mhm.
having to go take care of your kids. And even though some workplaces, like where I was, they're like, we're a family place. We want you to take care of their kids. But then when I left, they were like, how do I get a woman in here that doesn't have kids? Because they wanted her to be able to give more and they wanted to pay whoever replaced me kind of the same amount of money. And I'm sure that not all workplaces are like this. I'm sure that there are some places with better leadership and more understanding male figures in the business. But at least for me, that was my first experience in the workplace, and it warped how I considered or how I thought about the 9 to 5 life, and it completely changed what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life because I could not see myself in up another position like that for the next 30 years. I was like, "This cannot be how I'm supposed to live."
Yeah, I think I can talk to a different group of women. Mine was a little bit more self-inflicted. I did have a more understanding boss. However, my husband did make more money, and I felt like my job was very emotionally taxing, and I really, really struggled back and forth with, okay, I either was going to be there for my children or I was going to be there for the at-risk children that I worked with, and that was a very emotional uh tug for me, but I also wanted to take my children to the doctor's appointments. I wanted to be there for all like the school lunches. And so I a lot of times didn't even give my husband the opportunity. I was taking off and losing my PTO all on my own. And that and I was all my most of my paycheck went to paying for childcare. I mean,
Mhm.
that was just kind of the position that I put myself in. And, when they were sick, I wanted to be home with them. And could Patrick have taken off? Probably. But also, I didn't want to put him in a position where he could have even remotely lost his job or
I mean, yeah, that's how it was
used
for us
his
too.
PTO. I
Yeah.
wanted him to keep all of his vacation so we could take vacation
Yeah.
time because it was easier for me to go without pay than him to go without pay.
That's exactly how it was for us too.
So, that was a little bit more self-inflicted on my part, and I know that there are a lot of other women out there that are probably feeling the same. Um, of course, there were like I worked with a lot of um, I worked with a lot of men, and there were definitely I definitely experienced some of that. However, as far as the workplace went, I think I did most of my trauma bonding to myself.
Oh.
But that is why when we had the opportunity to start our own business, I was like, absolutely.
Yes.
Let's just go. Let's dive in. Let's go like hard in the paint because it just wasn't even worth it. I was paying for daycare. I was literally going to work.
It's like you were living on off one income, which was Patrick's, and your income was just going to childcare.
Yeah,
You're like, "Why are we doing
and I
this?"
was like having anxiety calling in every single time to every time my kid got sick or, whatever was happening
Mhm.
or trying to explain that my kid had a Thanksgiving performance that morning, whatever it was.
How do you even plead for that? Be like, "I'm so sorry. I cannot come into work on time. I have to see a Thanksgiving performance." And
I know,
and they don't care.
I know there were actually moments where my kids were sick or like all of our kids went to the same like little childcare place. And there were moments where, like the one time the electricity was out, and my boss was like, it was during COVID, and we had broken up into small groups where into teams, and there was only two of us, and I was the only forensic interviewer on my team, and it was a really important case. And my boss was like, "Well, bring your kid," which was like wild to me. And I was like, "Well, I don't really want my kid in the office because I don't want them to accidentally overhear something or be in the same room." And they were like, "Well, you have to come in." And so I remember I brought my daughter into work in her nap mat, and she just like stayed in the office and ran around and ate snacks. And it was at that moment I was like, this feels kind of icky. Like I get it, we're doing what we need to do, but as a mom, I was like, I don't really want to be here. Like this is too heavy. And
Well, and that's what I mean, like, women are expected to either prioritize family or the workplace, but when you prioritize either one, you're criticized for it.
That's
right,
wild because never on any other universe would anyone ask a man to bring their child into work.
no. And
Never.
actually,
Never.
if Patrick even remotely tried to put, in fact, it's a rule in Patrick's job. He can't even put a child in his truck. Like I'm not even allowed to touch his work truck. And if he ever had a kid in his work truck, he would lose his job
Oh
immediately.
my gosh.
Yeah.
Right.
He has a camera in his truck to prove that none of us are ever even in his truck.
That's wild.
And
Yeah.
that's why I think that's why so many women are drawn to an opportunity where we can make money without having to sacrifice time with our family or caring for our family. But then when we make decisions to do that, sometimes like we're criticized for it
all the
by
time.
men.
And
Yeah,
they're like, "Oh, they just don't wanna work."
Or yeah, or they're lazy, or that's not a real job, or like
which is
that's
what
not
happened in the online space. Like, oh, look at all these women
But
just
which
playing on
exactly.
Instagram.
and those are the comments that we're getting
Yeah,
on social media now. They're
on
like,
our podcast, they're
whole
just
saying a whole
roasting
lot of
us.
nothing. Is this a job? Like, what is this? I'm like,
Yeah,
"Sir,"
Yeah.
respectfully.
And so when we look at the online space and we see it primarily dominated by women, there's a reason for it. If there were other opportunities for women to make this kind of money doing this kind of work, then we would jump on it. But right now, this is like the best opportunity that has presented itself in a really, really long time.
right.
And that's why you primarily see women trying to start an online business selling digital products or helping other people with the skills that they have honed in their corporate jobs because we
Mhm.
have spent years honing skills in corporate jobs, serving other people, helping build other people's business, being other men's passive income. And now we're going to use those skills to build our own business, to give ourselves our time back and help other people achieve whatever goals we're helping them with.
Right.
And
We have
then
all accumulated skills in our
yeah.
previous jobs that are going to be useful in starting your own business that we're all using, that everyone has gathered.
You just don't realize that, like, it takes a minute to realize how your skills are transferable, but they are to some
Absolutely.
degree. It just takes like doing it to realize it. But there's so many women, and like this is why we're talking about this, that have some sort of experience in the workplace. I know there's some women who are just like, I've got childcare figured out, I've got it all figured out, and I love my job, and that's amazing.
Yeah, good
Awesome.
for you.
And I wish that for everybody.
Yeah.
But there's so many people, women that don't, like whether it's taking care of children, elderly parents, or maybe they have children who are disabled, or whatever the situation. Like it is so much harder for women to balance everything because not only are they full time employees, they're full time mothers, they're full time wives, and they're expected to do all of those things 100%. And if they don't, they're lacking in some way
Yeah.
and they're looked down upon. And so many women, these women, I just want them to realize, I want to shake them, be like, you don't have to do this. There is no rule that you have to have this solid 9 to 5. You can make money in another way and you have the skills to do it. And I feel like so many of us women are like, well, this is what we've been told we can do. And it's so like ingrained in our brains that the thought of doing something else is just like
I think
Isn't
that
it
crazy.
Sailing with Phoenix? And he was like, "There's no rules."
Yeah, he's a dude, but
He's a dude.
that's a good example though. He just like, yeah, Sailing with Phoenix. I showed him to you, and if y'all have probably heard of him. You've seen him, right, Jane?
I don't know.
This dude, he's incredible, an icon.
Now,
Now he is. He realized he had some sort of like potentially life-threatening disease that could paralyze him from the neck down. And he is in his early 30s and he was working a corporate job and he had forever. And he realized like his mortality basically. And he's like, oh my gosh, what am I doing? I hate this job. I could be paralyzed at any point in my life right now. And he's like, I'm gonna freaking live. There's no rules. So he liquidated his entire savings, sold his house, everything he owned except for his cat, Phoenix, and bought a sailboat. He'd never sailed before. He didn't know how to sail. He knew nothing about sailing.
Wait, I love him.
Taught himself to sail over the next like 9 months and then just took off. And he sailed from Oregon to Hawaii with his cat and documented it every day. And now he's going to be sailing around the world. And he's like, there's no rules.
he also grew to millions of followers documenting it
And
within
he's
a matter of
and he's so
weeks.
awkward. He's like, I don't know why y'all are following me, but this is cool.
But what we mean is like there's no rules. And as women, we kind of grow up within rules, within only rules. And we think we have to get a job, we have to get a degree, we have to get an education, then get a job that's going to provide for us, and then get married, and then have kids and do that for the rest of our lives. And it's not like somebody sat us down and told us that, but it's kind of how we were raised and it was kind of ingrained in us. And so those were the
Just
rules
subliminal.
But
that we have been following.
but you also don't have to just be barefoot and pregnant. You can,
No, there's
No.
like middle ground.
which is exactly why I think we feel so passionate about what we do and why we made the courses.
Yeah.
And we're actually redoing them right now.
Because we enjoy working.
Right. We enjoy working. I like being able
I've
to,
I love working.
I love working. We like being able to provide for our families. Lots of people have been asking us about the courses. They're actually under construction right now. So just give us a couple moments, and we're trying our best, and then they'll be up for y'all. Um, Mostly Megan and Paige because they do all the recording and content and stuff. But we are like redoing them all so that you'll have like the best, newest information. We just want them to be like perfect, and then we'll announce as soon as they're ready.
Yeah. But I do want to talk about kind of the mind shift change that happened when we did start this business and when we decided to leave corporate, leave 9 to 5 and provide for ourselves.
We need
And
the mind shift of money.
the money to time relationship.
Yes.
It was bizarre to me when I realized that my time did not equate money.
Yeah.
Crazy. And that's such a hard thing to change. But when you start an online business, especially, and this I think is a unique type of business, your time, the amount of time that you spend on the business does not automatically turn into a set amount of dollars like it does at a job
Right.
where you're getting paid a set amount per hour that you work. I can work 2 hours and make a couple $1,000s, which is wild.
Right.
Absolutely wild. And so when I learned this and when I saw the time money relationship change for me, it was mind blowing. And you start looking at money completely differently because it's not like you're not giving away hours of your life in exchange for a dollar amount. It's more like I'm going to spend this time investing in the business. And in return, this is going to continue making me money day after day after day. And it was only like a certain number of hours. It was it was just absolutely wild to me. And it's probably one of my favorite parts about running an online business, especially.
I don't feel like that's something that shifted for you overnight though, or
Oh
any of
no.
us. Like that was something that took time because I think for a long time we operated on like an employee mindset and like we were wanting to be like really structured, which is nothing wrong with being structured, but just the way that we like looked at money, the way we invested money and the way we spent and saved, like it took us a long time to make that shift to look at the business the way that we do now.
That's fair. I mean, definitely didn't happen overnight. I don't think that my experience, in fact, I know my experience is not average. I know that most people coming into the online space do not start making $10,000 a month within a month. And I am an outlier. While I'm not the only one who experienced something like that, I'm one of a very small percent of people who started an online business and immediately started seeing 5 figures a week and a month. But that said, it still did take time for me to grasp what was happening and how
Yeah, it was like shocking.
yeah, it completely shocked me because it wasn't like translating for me that the time that I was spending was making
You're like, do does not
$10,000.
compute.
Yeah, it does not. Yeah, it was like that meme with the woman and all the numbers. She's like,
Oh yeah, she's like,
yeah.
wait, I only worked two
What?
days this month. How is this happening?
And it made $10,000. So it was crazy. And yeah, it was a little bit of an effort. It took me some time to kind of like settle into that shift. But what that also did was change the way I prioritize certain things.
Hmm.
So instead of being like, I need to do every single task myself, it's what are the activities that I do that produce the highest ROI? And so instead of spending all of my time on every task that I could possibly do as a business owner, it's like, well, where do I need to dedicate my time specifically so that I continue making this amounts of money? And where can I outsource smaller tasks that don't necessarily produce the money, but are still super important to my business? Which is ultimately why, kind of how Jane and Paige came online. I forced Paige into the business.
Hmm.
And then I was like, Jane, you got to do this. Like, at first, it's also our dream to run a business together. Like crazy. We never saw this coming
Yeah.
in a million years.
Never.
No.
But it was our dream.
It
Like,
was
can you
literally a
believe
dream
this?
since middle school. No, I cannot.
Wild.
It's still hard for me to understand. It's like hard
Well,
for me to grasp that
You're
we're
like, wow,
doing this.
we're actually doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're doing
Jane and
it.
I, yeah, we've been best friends since 2005.
I don't know.
I don't know, middle school. We were 13 and 14, and now we're
Yeah.
34, still best friends running a business together. And we just started a podcast. Like, if somebody had
crazy.
told us this, I don't know, even 2 years ago, I would have slapped him in the face and been like, get out, shut up.
You're
No.
wrong. Wrong.
Nah.
Nah.
I don't think so. But crazy. And that just goes to show that Like, it's absolutely wild, the potential in this online space. You When I made that first Instagram video,
With your thin little eyebrows.
yeah, when I made that first Instagram video with my eyebrows are too far apart 2.5 years ago, I would never have dreamed that it would turn into a multi-million dollar business that I was running with my sister and my best friend. Never in a million years would I have believed somebody if they had said, "Hey, you making this one Instagram video is going to turn into a dream business that changes the lives of you and the people you care about the most."
I think another really important mindset shift that people need to make is when you have a 9 to 5 job, you everything you invest is either like into your savings account or just your daily bills. You don't have much wiggle room for the most part. And whatever you do have is going into, well, what am I going to eat, or am I going to save for this summer's vacation, whatever it may be. When you are aiming towards starting your own business, you need to invest in yourself. It's very important to invest in your education for whatever that may be, investing in a mentor, investing in your business, because everything you invest is going to then duplicate and re- be a huge return for you. We invest in the business and ourselves all the time, and we see returns, quadruple, and we do it on the regular.
I think that's hard for, like, some people to see. It definitely was for me, like, when I was still working a 9 to 5,
Oh,
because
absolutely.
you're like people are like, "Oh, invest in yourself, take time to learn more," and I was like, "Okay, but I'm already doing multiple CEs a month. I don't want to do any more education," but it was necessary for me to do it in order to get out. Like, you cannot expect to be able to take on a new skill and learn a new skill if you're not willing to invest and take the time to learn. Even if it's just like a time investment. Like, I think that's what some people struggle with when they think of the idea of like leaving their 9 to 5 job and starting something completely new, which is what we did,
Yeah.
because it's really intimidating, the thought of like putting that money towards something else
Hmm.
other than the bare necessities
Right.
makes them feel selfish,
Yeah.
and they don't realize that it's the least selfish thing that they can do, because by investing in themselves and learning this new skill, which is ridiculously simple. It's complicated at first because, it's a new skill, it's new, it's not hard, it's just new. But by doing that, they're going to be able to have so much more opportunity, and I'm like so passionate about that, because we would never be here if we hadn't have been like, "Ugh, I know this costs money and I don't really like have it like expendable income,
Hmm.
but I know that this is gonna pay off in some way." And so we did it painfully, but if it weren't for that, like, getting uncomfortable, like, we would never have been able to leave our jobs. We still would have been out of PTO, like, every quarter, and we'd still be, like, in a miserable job. Like, that's a huge mindset shift. Like,
And it's a very difficult one. It's a scary one.
it's very scary.
Being wildly uncomfortable is absolutely necessary when you're starting something new, though.
Yeah.
My mom, my mom the other day was like, "It's so weird. If somebody would have told me that you were making Instagram videos, I would have asked them if they were actually talking about you." She's like, "I could never have imagined you doing this." I was like, "You'll join the club."
Same.
None of us. This
Yeah.
was wildly uncomfortable for all of us. And people still come up to me and they're like, "It's so weird to me that you're the one doing this." And I'm like, "I know. 2.5 years later, I know it's still weird. But holy crap, thank God that I got uncomfortable. Thank God that I was desperate enough to get uncomfortable enough to try something new."
Oh, yeah, and that you bullied me into also getting uncomfortable.
I did.
But, you bullied me a long time before I had to get as uncomfortable myself. I'm the person that has
Yeah.
to hit rock bottom on my own to make a decision. We got there pretty quick, but I was like, "Well, what do I have to lose?" Like, a few people leaving, like, weird comments, like, who cares? Like, if it means that I get to, like, achieve more and be with my family more. But, like, I feel like this has been a really, like, cathartic episode, but it's really just to show people, women, that there is, so much possibility and you can do this. Like, whatever reason you're not happy, like, in a 9 to 5, or you need to make more money, you wanna be home with your family, whatever, like, you can do it. Like, we started messy. We started
So messy. We're
very
still
messy.
really messy.
Sometimes
We
they're so
started
messy.
so awkward. I am awkward. I will never change. And you just grow as you go. And that sounds so corny. It sounds like live, laugh, love. But like you were going to make a bunch of mistakes, and we all did, made so many mistakes. But like this is just like a cheer you on, like you can do this kind of thing.
I saw something and I wanted to mention it before we move on to our last kind of topic that we want to touch on. Kevin O'Leary, I don't know if y'all follow him.
I don't
Yeah.
follow him.
He's a big investor. He makes
Shark
really
Tank.
great content. He posted something today that said a salary is the drug they give you to forget about your dreams.
Oof.
And I screenshotted it because I was like,
that got cut deep.
got
Yeah.
me good.
Ugh.
100% because it is.
Yeah.
It's-
I mean, it absolutely is.
It's the equivalent to like I'm like a pizza party at work. Be like, we're not going to give you a raise, but we're going to give you a pizza party.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My job gave us alcohol. They were like, let's
Your
have
job
a party.
really did, though.
They sure did.
We just
People
got we got pizza parties.
They were
got
like,
twisted.
Yeah.
And they were like, hey, let's chill. It was a rough week. Let's go have a beer. And
Your job was so weird.
it was bizarre.
They're like, I hope she forgets to ask for
but
that
then
raise.
let's pray before every meeting.
We-
Crazy.
We need to unpack some of that in therapy, to be honest.
Ugh. But the last thing that we kind of wanted to talk about on this topic is why it's so important, in my opinion at least, it's why it's so important that more women make more money. And this has been big to me as we've continued to grow. And I've seen this with other people too. I saw another creator, and I can't even remember who it was at this point, but she said that we have a moral obligation to make more money because more money in the hands of more good people honestly just makes the world a better place. And I thought about that, and I agree with it because you consider the people who do have a lot of money, you consider celebrities, you consider politicians, and while I think that there are good ones out there, the majority of them I think are very self-serving. And what I wanted to do with money was just take care of the people who mattered the most to me. I wanted y'all to be able to run this business with me. I wanted you to be able to leave this job, your jobs. I wanted to be able, like, I wanted this business to provide for your families. So your kids saw you doing something outside of what they see. And I like the idea of more normal people having access to more money.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's just like a principle thing, in my opinion. Like coming from families who did not have a lot growing up. Like it's just nice to see like the underdogs doing well.
It is.
Like
regular people.
normal, like middle class people just like doing well and not having to fight through every single month trying to pay their bills. Honestly, that's what it is for me. To see people make like something, make money that's equal to their output.
Well, and it's like when you have more money, obviously your life is a little bit easier, but you're able to be more generous. You're able to do more. Oh, I
Bless
felt
you.
it coming.
Don't do it again.
I'm going to try not to. But you don't know, you're just able to do more with it. And I mean, since we've had money, I feel like I've been able to do more for the people I really care about.
You've done a lot.
And it's
Everything you aimed for, you did.
not because not like selfishly, I just wanted to be able to treat
Yeah.
everybody.
You are a treater.
I love
That's your
to
love
treat
language. Yeah.
people.
It is.
You've always treated people.
Do you want to go on a vacation? Let's go on vacation.
Yeah.
I'll pay for everything.
Yeah.
You just come and have a good time.
Yeah.
Thanks, Grandma.
But you will not wear matching PJs.
I don't like that idea.
That is so rude.
I know.
I found us some more at Walmart for our next trip.
Okay, good.
But anyway, so I feel like I want, and I feel like the world needs for more regular, emotionally intelligent people to have more resources.
Women.
Emotionally intelligent women to have more resources. And this is how we did it for ourselves.
Yeah.
And it's how a lot of women are doing it for themselves too.
Yeah, I think so too.
And I love it.
Yeah, I think that this is kind of the beginning of something like really big, and it's not like a feminist like diehard kind of thing. It's just that we want, well, I guess it is sounding kind of feminist, but this one's for the ladies. Like we want the women to be able to have everything that they want in life. Basically.
Yeah.
Sounds really corny, but it's true.
But it's true.
But
But anyway,
If you haven't caught on yet, this episode is only for the ladies.
thanks for
If
coming
you've
to our
made it
TED
this
Talk.
far and you're a man, Well,
I
you
wasn't
can
even
sign off
thinking
it.
about the dudes this episode.
Please,
You can sign off now.
you can go. You probably should have gone a long time ago.
Or just text your wife.
Sorry, guys.
But yeah, thank you for coming to our TED Talk. This has been really fun.
But we just want, we want this episode to just be encouragement. If you're still in a 9 to 5, if you haven't started your online journey yet, go for it. Just go for it because you have no idea what it could turn into. Absolutely no idea.
If it's so possible. And like say yes to every opportunity. We were talking about this in the car and then Megan and Paige kind of shot me down. But like every single opportunity you get, say yes. I don't even care what it is. If it is a vacation, if it is like an education, like an extra course to learn something, if it's a promotion, if it's a different job, just say yes, take it. No matter what it is, if it's an experience, you're going to meet new people, you're going to learn something new, you're going to have something else on your resume. It's a new opportunity for your family. Just take it because you have no idea what door is opening for you on the other side.
Why did that give me like Mel Robbins, like let them vibes?
Let them. Maybe I'm coming for you, Mel Robbins.
Good
Not
luck.
really. Not really. She's so cool.
She is really cool.
Oh,
Maybe
gosh.
I'm going to be her next guest.
You might. You just might.
What are you going to talk about with Mel Robbins?
Probably my problems.
Fix me.
I don't know.
Well, anyway, this was a little bit more maybe of a cathartic episode, but I feel like this is something that a lot of women in our space and in general have dealt with. And I don't think it's right for us to start a podcast and not at least talk about it.
Yeah, you've been waiting a long time to talk about this.
I'm telling you, this is a soapbox I could stay on for
I've been
days.
itching to talk about
Oh,
this.
I'll itch about, this is the one that sometimes I go live on Instagram. I haven't in a long time and I just rant. And people are like, amen. Yeah,
Hell yeah, brother.
Yeah, hell yeah, brother. And they really pump me up and then I don't stop. But now you know how we feel about it if you didn't already know.
How Megan feels about it.
Yes. Now you know. But if you've had similar experiences in the workplace, we would love to hear from it. Like we would love to hear fan mail. Like comment on this episode. Let us know what you thought. Let us know if you've had similar experiences working, if you've had similar feelings, how, what your career, what your work life has led you to think about what's expected from women and raising families. We just want to hear what you think. And if you have any questions, also send those our way so we can respond to them in some of our episodes and let you know what we're doing behind the scenes, what what you should be doing. That was hard for me to get out.
Whoa.
What?
But anyways,
Wow.
that until next episode, that is all for today.
Yeah. Don't forget to follow us. You usually tell us what to do.
Don't forget to follow us. It's super boring to just talk by ourselves. Send some fun questions to Megan on Instagram at the Megan Hall or Paige at the Paige Herzog or on TikTok, unless you're going to be rude because some of y'all are kind of rude on TikTok.
The dudes.
The dudes. What is wrong with y'all? Someone send something nice on TikTok at OOO Podcast. Bye.
Bye.